everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, covering this one from the old homestead here this afternoon, getting ramped up for Bills versus Rams coming up at 4:25. Inactives will be released at about 2:55 p.m. We'll find out if Coleman and Dalton Kincaid are active or inactive. I know that Adam Schefter reported early this morning that Kincaid is unlikely to play, while Coleman will be a game-time decision. And that makes sense with Kincaid having gone through his first week of practice since returning from the injury. Coleman already having gone through a couple weeks of limited practice. I think Coleman is obviously the one closer to a return than Kincaid, and Schefter confirmed as much earlier this morning. But how'd your weekend go? OG Fortnite session on Friday. How did it all transpire? Did you get everything out of it that you could have ever imagined?
No, it wasn't the same. And especially because when you haven't touched a game in a while and you have there's all these memes going around like you hop on OG Fortnite and you lose to kids that weren't even around, weren't even born when OG Fortnite was created. And they're all these 12-year-old little kids that are just absolutely destroying you. That's basically what it was, because I was so rusty that these kids just come in and they're building, editing. I couldn't even do anything. So yeah, we had fun. It was a great time. But the actual game itself, it just didn't, it's not the same anymore. But yeah, it was a fun time. But yeah, I just want to get to that Dalton Kincaid thing. If he doesn't go, I think it really shows why, or shows that, that Dawson Knox is really coming to his own as a player. And I think that with his kind of, not a surgeon, I should say, but him being able to fill that role right as a starting tight end for this team, I think that gives the Bills more confidence to really, take Dalton Kincaid 1 week at a time. Maybe if Dawson Knox wasn't doing as well or something like that, maybe they would say, hey, maybe Dalton should play this week. But I think with the confidence they have with Dawson Knox, obviously Zach Davidson called up to the practice squad yesterday. So he's also in the mix there. Quentin Morris is also questionable. So the whole tight end room really banged up. But at the end of the day, they do have a Dawson Knox who I think has really done well at his time. And I think he's given the Bills confidence that they can really take their time here with Dalton Kincaid and get him 100% for this stretch run.
Yeah, this will be Davidson's last time up during the regular season from the practice squad. He is now out of elevations. We'll have to wait until the postseason unless for some reason he gets signed to the 53-man roster. But before we dig into this matchup, AJ, I've been watching Red Zone throughout the day, and I know there are a few teams on bye this week: the Ravens, the Broncos, the Texans, and the Colts, really four of the top teams in the AFC alongside the Bills and the Chiefs. But including this Jets-Dolphins pillow fight that's going on, the 3-0 Titans-Jags game at halftime. Yeah. It just seems to me, watching all these teams and thinking about all the young talent the Bills have, and I tweeted this out earlier, Christian Benford, Terrell Bernard, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, Khalil Shakir, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Osiris Torrance you can throw in the mix, the two bookend tackles that they have, Josh Allen, obviously, the safety room starting to come together. It seems like you have more depth on the defensive line and at the linebacker position than you thought at the season start. So it just seems to me that this team is really set up for years to come. And there was all the talk about the Super Bowl window, and I think that's kind of gone by the wayside with the Bills winning 7 straight games. But you watch these other teams in the AFC, and it's hard to imagine them catching up to the Bills anytime soon.
Yeah, it's bad. And again, I think the Dolphins are really playing for their season right now. So that'll be an interesting second half. Interested to see how that plays out when we get off of here, to see if the Dolphins can kind of keep their season alive. I think the Jets have actually shown some life today. So that was actually, despite being 3-9, at least they're they're still playing and not totally putting it, not trying or anything like that. And then, yeah, I mean, you look around the league, I mean, the Jags and Titans game is just awful. It's a lot of just Tony Pollard for the Titans. Then the Jags just, I mean, Mac Jones is definitely regressed since that, start to his career at the playoffs. So he's just not the same player anymore. And then the Raiders, they're somehow still in it because Baker's just throwing the ball up for grabs and throwing interceptions. And then the Steelers-Browns game. Steelers are a good team. They're going to win the way they win, and they have a nice coach, and they're going to be a contender, and they're going to be in it, and they might win a playoff game or two. But I don't think they're a legitimate threat with Russell Wilson. So yeah, I think this Bills team has a great opportunity this year. And like you said, I think I agree with you with the wide open window part. I don't think anytime soon with Josh Allen here, as long as Josh Allen's here and he's not 38 or 39 years old, I think they have a really good chance of being a very good team in the AFC.
And now a quick look at the playoff picture before these games, the early window conclude and the 425 window opens up. A Bills win and a Steelers loss to the Browns. What's the score of that game currently, AJ?
It's 13-7 Steelers right now.
All right, so if the Browns come back and win that game, and if the Chiefs, lose against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, that would give the Bills the AFC number 1 seed heading into Week 15. The Bills would also be 2 games ahead of the Steelers, and they would enter Week 15 with an 80% chance to earn a first-round bye, that courtesy of BuffaloBills.com. So a lot can happen today for the Bills in terms of that number 1 seed. I know that the Steelers currently leading, and the Chiefs going up against a relatively banged-up Chargers squad here this evening. So we'll see how that plays out. But who would have thought early season sitting at 3-2, the Bills now seemingly having a really good chance to earn that first-round bye in that number 1 seed. It's going to start with a win over the Rams here at 425, and this is a team that's much healthier on the offensive side of the ball than they were earlier in the year. But the way that the Bills are rolling, coming into this game, winning 7 straight, the way that they're cooking on both sides of the ball, I'm just not so sure a mediocre team like the Rams is going to be the one to slow their roll. We'll get to predictions later, but what's your view on the Bills and their chase for the number 1 seed entering today's action, and maybe briefly touch on that matchup before we dive in?
Yeah, I think the Steelers are frankly out of it for the 1 seed. So it's going to come down to the Bills and Chiefs. And the Chiefs' schedule, looking at it right here in front of me, they do play the Chargers this week. Then they have an easier game against the Browns. But then their last 3 games are all tough. They go Texans, Steelers, Broncos. So those are all games that, the Texans are not playing great, but neither are the Chiefs. So that's winnable for both teams. The Chiefs and Steelers, that who knows what could happen in that game. And that will be, the Chiefs will be coming off a short week. It looks like they're only a 4-day rest. And then I don't know how that makes sense. Oh, they're playing Christmas. That's why. So they're playing on a Wednesday. So they only get 4 days rest for that Steelers game. And then the Chiefs Broncos, they close the season. So I think there's an opportunity. I think the Chiefs do need to lose 2 because I could see the Bills dropping 1 here in the next few weeks. And I mean, unless they run the table, I mean, that'd be great. But it's really hard to win. It would be probably like 13, 14 games in a row if they close it out. So I think the 1 seed is really still in the picture. But I think the Chiefs, if they drop 2, I'm feeling really confident that the Bills can do it. And with that schedule, I think they can. And then looking at this Bills and Rams game, yeah, I think, we kind of touched on it earlier, but this Bills team is hot, and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are a problem. They can win games. Kyron Williams is a guy that's, doing a really good job in terms of production. So that this team has a lot of firepower. I think defensively, the Bills are going to be able to take advantage of some mismatches. But yeah, overall, I think this Bills team has a good opportunity here to win their 8th in a row.
All right, before we break down this matchup with inactives coming out shortly, let's thank our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. All right, AJ, I know that we touched on it in our previous pod. You just touched on it briefly there. Let's look at the Bills' defense and the Rams' offense to kick this thing off. I think the X factor in this game for the Bills' defense is slowing Kyron Williams. I know that the passing game with Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, that's really what everyone talks about when it comes to the Rams. Sean McVay, the mad scientist, dialing things up with those yard after the catch savvy receivers. But Kyren Williams has scored all 10 of the Rams rushing touchdowns this season. He's the only player in the NFL to score all of his teams rushing touchdowns. So I think you slow Kyren Williams in this game. You turn the Rams into a one-dimensional offense, and that's going to lead to some takeaways for this Bills defense. They've been turnover happy all season, have the Bills creating those takeaways. And I think once you push a team into a corner and make them one-dimensional, that's when those turnovers start to come. And I think if you're able to take away Kyren Williams, something that the Bills have struggled at times to do this season, stopping elite opposing running backs, and I'm not sure Kyren Williams is elite, but maybe bordering on elite this season. I think the key to this game for the Bills is finding a way to slow Kyren Williams and obviously keeping him out of the end zone in this one.
Yeah, I would agree with you spot on. And Adam Schefter did just report that Coleman and Kincaid will not play. So we'll get to that after I kind of explain my spiel here. But yeah, I think this Bills defense, I'm right with you with stopping Kyren Williams. I think he's a player. Again, he's had 24 straight games with 50-plus yards, which leads the NFL. That's hard to do. He's done it at a consistent level. Now, he has fumbled a lot. I mentioned in the previous pod that does happen as well. So I think the Bills are going to be active on that and try to punch the ball out as often as they can. But, yeah, I think he's a player that, they need to stop because the Bills, you look at a Bills team, how do you beat the Bills? Every week you go into a matchup with the Bills, you think, okay, they're susceptible to the run because they play a nickel defense and they're undersized. The linebackers are smaller. That's probably the thought process for a lot of teams. That's why you see a Baltimore Ravens team coming with Derrick Henry in the first place, an 87-yard touchdown, because that is what you want to attack. That's how you want to attack this Bills defense. And if you do that successfully, that can open up the passing game. So if you can stop Kyren Williams, like you said, make them a one-dimensional team, which really should be kind of what the Bills' defensive mindset should be every week, right? Limit the running back and make the quarterback throw into a secondary that's unbelievable this year. Linebackers are playing well in coverage as well. So you really want to make teams one-dimensional. I think the Bills should and can continue to do that today against Kyren Williams and this Rams offense, and we'll see what happens. I think Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, again, are a big test. They're big X factors. You're going to have to really play fundamentally sound. I think that Nacua is a guy that can really beat you anywhere. Cooper Kupp's really a guy that can beat you anywhere in the field. So they're going to have to be very fundamentally sound on that back end as well, on top of, limiting Kyren.
So unfortunate, no Keon Coleman, no Dalton Kincaid. I thought Coleman would return today. I didn't think Kincaid would. But there is chance for re-injury, I think, with Coleman's situation. He hasn't put on a hard cast or a brace on that wrist throughout his time on the mend. But perhaps that's just a product of the Bills trying to give him full range of motion and really get it as healthy as possible. And knowing that he was going to be out this long. I think with Amari Cooper, they threw that cast on, which has since been removed because they knew they were going to try to push him back, more of a veteran player. Maybe can work his way around that. But a rookie receiver that was bursting out of the scene like Coleman, you certainly don't want anything to set him back injury-wise this early in his career. And obviously the wrist, very, very critical body part when it comes to a wide receiver catching the football. But I don't think this Bills offense has really skipped a beat without either of those players. You mentioned Dawson Knox's emergence in the offense, and Mac Hollins has really played a strong role at the wide receiver position, and Curtis Samuel has had his moments as well. And then Amari Cooper and Khalil Shakir do what they do. So I don't think you need to rush Coleman back. Like I said, I thought he would play today, but I guess it does make sense to hold him out and perhaps get him back for that Detroit Lions game next week. That's going to be a big, big matchup in Detroit against another Super Bowl contender. But your thoughts on both these players being inactive?
Yeah, I'm surprised that both were inactive. I think I thought one of them would be. That's what I said. But, I mean, you look at what they've done the last 2 weeks without them. They both have not played the last 2 weeks. They put up 30 against the Chiefs, and they put up 35 against the Niners. So
right.
It's like, what do you do? If the guy's not fully there, like you mentioned, I think you just wait it out as long as possible. The Bills and Josh Allen, they have full confidence. When you have an offensive line that can protect and block in the run like the Bills have, that's really the most important piece. Like, it would be a bigger loss if the Bills were without two offensive linemen today rather than a Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid, just because of the impact up front there for them. So I think, like you mentioned, a lot of guys have stepped up. Khalil Shakir is obviously the leading catch getter, and he's the guy that they're really going to key in on. I'm sure there'll be some scripted plays here early. You'll probably see a clear, secure screen pass to test the Rams defense and see how good they can move laterally. That seems to be happening a lot. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But I don't think it's the biggest loss. You reflect. Joe Brady's like, look, we're putting up 30 with or without these guys. They have full confidence. Everyone's bought in. And they're going up against a defense that I think is very susceptible.
And we already touched on it in our previous podcast, how you can run on this defense. Saquon Barkley, I forget who it was last week, back-to-back over 100 yards rushing for the top running backs that played against the Rams. So I think it's going to be a heavy dose of James Cook. You're going to see some Ray Davis, maybe even some Ty Johnson. Let this offensive line go to work that time of possession. So maybe you don't need your full complement of pass catchers the way that the game plan may play out here this afternoon. But AJ, let's hit the spot. Oh, go ahead. You got anything else?
No. Yep.
All right. Let's hit the sponsor and then we'll close it out.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right. Anything else here, AJ? What do you got planned for game day? Any treats lined up? Just a boring game day at home, huh?
Boring game day at home watching the Bills. I actually do have something to add with the offensive line. The Rams are first in pressure rate. These are quick numbers. First in pressure rate, first and third down pressure rate, and 16th in sack percentage. So they're getting pressures, but they're not finishing to the probably ability they want to be. But that's, again, back to the offensive line point that I think that's really important, that this offensive line stays healthy. And I think they'll be tested today against a young group of guys that we already talked about on Friday's show. So that's really all I got, but I think we're going to move here to predictions.
Yeah, my prediction for this game, why don't you give yours first and I'll pull mine up. I forget the score that I predicted.
Okay, I think it's going to be a little bit of a closer game. Traveling out west, I think the Rams are hungry. They're 6-6. They're fighting. The Seahawks and Cardinals are going at it the same time. With the win, the Rams could potentially move up to that first place slot. So I think it's going to be a tough game. Matt Stafford's still one of the better quarterbacks in football. Their coach have a great head coach in Sean McVay. But I think the Bills, again, they're just on such a rhythm and they're playing for so much, and the continuity just keeps getting better and better, especially the last 2 weeks. And I think they're a team that's just been on fire, and that's not going to stop in an hour or so. So give me the Bills, 27, Rams, 21. I think that James Cook is going to have a day today.
Yeah, I see it a bit differently. I think the Bills are going to roll again. So 7th straight game with 30 points or more. They're going to roll to a 32-14 victory. I think Stafford goes for over 300 yards, as I mentioned in our previous podcast, but I think a lot of that's going to come in garbage time. I think James Cook and the Bills' running game is really going to get going early and often. You might even see Josh Allen on some designed runs in this one. Give me the Bills. Blowout win, another one before this big game against the Lions last week. Now, this has kind of the makings of a trap game in that sense. It's not like you're playing a team from your division or even your conference next week, but it's a big-time measuring stick game for the Bills, and I think that's the only thing that could hold them back from a big win in this one, is if they're looking ahead. But with a Sean McDermott coach team, you don't see that very often. They typically come into these games pretty focused.
Yeah, they're wired. Like they're bots. Like they're all just like, yep, just 1 week at a time. So they're definitely not thinking ahead. I mean, maybe a little bit, but you really got to focus on LA here. They're a good team, and yeah, I'm excited for next week. It's going to be a great, Detroit. You know how much talent's going to be on that field. I mean, Montgomery, Gibbs, Amon-Ra. I mean, it's just going to be, and they're beatable, right? Like they're not. I like the Eagles more than them right now in the NFC. The Eagles are a little susceptible today, but yeah, I like this Lions team, and it's going to be a fun matchup next week to kind of dive into.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time.
Peace out.